Chapter 599. Everyone else was stunned. Then, they looked at the man in his prime with shock and astonishment. Is he a big shot in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? Otherwise, why would the white-haired palace master, an existence akin to a regional official, a spirit sea realm palace master of a large region, be so respectful to him? The strong man glanced at the white-haired palace master casually, took a sip of wine, and said, "Look over there, look over there." He pointed at the battle between Lu Ming and Qin Qingshan and continued to watch with interest. The white-haired palace master did not dare to say anything and also watched. When they saw it, the faces of the palace masters changed. A peak 9th realm martial king with such combat strength. Who is he? There is no such person in the Hong domain. Where is he from? The white-haired palace master could not help but ask. I heard that he is from the Tianxian domain. How is it? He is quite strong. The robust man chuckled. So he is from the same place as Lord Yan. The Tianxian domain is really full of talents. The white-haired palace master sighed and flattered the strong man. The others on the side seemed to have thought of something and their faces changed. They looked at the strong man in awe. Lu Ming and Qin Qingshan were unaware of all these. The battle between the two of them had already reached its climax. Qin Qingshan exerted all his strength without holding back. Today, he had to defeat Lu Ming. However, although Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, he was extremely tenacious and was held back by Lu Ming. Moreover, Lu Ming seemed to be getting braver as the battle went on. Delightful, delightful. I'm becoming more and more proficient in controlling my own strength. I'm becoming more and more proficient. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. At this moment, the two had already exchanged more than 100 blows. Although Qin Qingshan was strong, he could not do anything to him. Lu Ming had some idea of the combat strength of the top talents on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. At least, he had some idea of the last few people. Saint Star was ranked before Qin Qingshan, but only one place higher. Even if he was stronger than Qin Qingshan, his strength was limited. Boom! With a loud explosion, the two of them were sent flying backwards. Lu Ming retreated 200 meters, while Qin Qingshan retreated 150 meters. That's right. Let's end this battle. At this moment, the robust man spoke. Qin Qingshan casually swept a glance over and could not be bothered with them. With a loud roar, he was about to charge towards Lu Ming. Qingshan, stop! Vice Palace Master Qin shouted softly. With a wave of his hand, a force blocked in front of Qin Qingshan. Father, why are you stopping me? Today, I must destroy him. Qin Qingshan roared. If he couldn't thoroughly defeat Lu Ming in today's battle, his reputation would definitely be greatly affected. He was already at the bottom of the list of top 1,000 talents to begin with. Now that the next ranking of the list of top 1,000 talents was refreshed, he might fall out of the list. This was hard for him to accept. Qingshan, I told you to stop, so stop. Vice Palace Master Qin's face darkened as he scolded. Qin Qingshan's expression changed. His father rarely lost his temper with him. What was wrong with him today? Then, he glanced around and saw the white-haired princess standing respectfully beside the robust man. His eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. He glanced at Lu Ming unwillingly and then went to Vice Palace Master Qin's side. It's over. I'll take my leave then. The robust man stood up and stretched. With a wave of his hand, the chair on the ground disappeared. The robust man strode towards Lu Ming. Young man, come with me. The robust man said to Lu Ming. Come with you? Lu Ming's eyes flashed and his face darkened. To be honest, he did not have a good impression of this robust man. If not for him, the interdomain teleportation formation would not have been destroyed. Young man, aren't you going back to Tianxian domain? I'll send you back. The robust man said. You have a way to send me back to Tianxian domain? Lu Ming was stunned. Why? You don't believe me? I'm going back to Tianqian domain anyway. It's okay to take you back. The robust man drank a mouthful of wine and said. Yes, I believe you. Lu Ming hurriedly said. Just now, he also saw that the white-haired palace master and the rest were very respectful to this middle-aged man. This middle-aged man definitely had an extraordinary identity. Perhaps he really had a way. Lu Ming could only hold on to any glimmer of hope now. Senior, wait for me. Lu Ming called out and then flew towards Fei Xue. Fei Xue's beautiful eyes were full of splendor. Lu Ming's strength had exceeded her expectations. ALV-9 Martial King was able to contend with Qin Qingshan. If Lu Ming became a peak king, wouldn't he be even stronger? Perhaps he would be able to contend with the top 700 or 800 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents? Miss Fei Xue, I have to go. Thank you for your help during this period. This is for you. Lu Ming took out a storage ring and handed it to Fei Xue. Fei Xue subconsciously took it. We'll meet again. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then flew towards the robust man. The robust man waved his hand and a stream of genuine essence wrapped around Lu Ming. He said softly, let's go. In the next moment, Lu Ming and the robust man disappeared. Fei Xue's mind sank into the storage ring, and then her beautiful eyes flashed. 2,000 metal profound crystals lay quietly in his storage ring, emitting a strong aura of intent domain. Brother Lu, Fei Xue looked up, but Lu Ming's figure had disappeared. Father, who is that man? He destroyed the interdomain teleportation formation and left just like that. Qin Qingshan asked Vice Palace Master Qin. Vice Palace Master Qin pondered for a moment and looked at the white-haired Palace Master. The white-haired Palace Master nodded and said, you guessed right. He is Yan Kuangtu. What? Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. Lu Ming only felt his vision blur. In the next moment, he was shocked to find that he was already outside Hong City. Fast, unbelievably fast. Kid, which part of Tianqian domain are you from? The robust man looked at Lu Ming curiously. I'm from the eastern part of Tianqian domain, Cloud Emperor Mountain Range. Lu Ming said. The eastern part of Tianqian domain, what a coincidence. I'm also from the eastern part of Tianqian domain. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, I haven't returned to Tianqian domain for decades. This time, I heard that there are some problems in ancient Desolation City, so I went back to take a look. The robust man drank a few mouthfuls of wine and looked to the east. Ancient Desolation City? Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he did not say much. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Senior, when will we return to Tianqian domain? What's the hurry? Come and drink with me. It doesn't matter if it's for a while. The robust man laughed and landed on a hill outside Hong City. Then, he casually sat on the ground and took out some roasted beast meat from his storage ring and started eating. Lu Ming had no choice but to sit on the side. It's easier to travel after eating and drinking. Come, have a bite too. Chapter 600. Lu Ming reached out and took it. He opened his mouth and took a sip. However, when this mouthful entered his stomach, Lu Ming's expression changed. He felt that this mouthful of wine had turned into a raging flame that burned in his stomach. Rumble. Immediately after, this mouthful of wine transformed into waves of extremely terrifying, scorching energy that was like stormy waves, rampaging within Lu Ming's body. From the outside, one could see that Lu Ming's body was swelling rapidly, as if he could explode from this energy at any time. Too strong, this energy was too strong. The robust man looked at Lu Ming seriously. If Lu Ming couldn't withstand it, he would help. Devour. At this moment, Lu Ming let out a low roar. A powerful devouring force emitted from his spine, devouring the majestic energy in his body. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated the true dragon battle art with all his might to refine it. Half an hour later, Lu Ming let out a long breath and opened his eyes. A bolt of lightning flashed in his eyes, filled with a terrifying aura. What pure and majestic energy! Lu Ming exclaimed inwardly. He felt that the energy in that mouthful of wine was even more terrifying than refining a few million supreme-grade spirit crystals. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ming's state hadn't broken through, he felt that he could rely on the energy in that mouthful of wine to break through to the Pinnacle King realm. Of course, this was just an illusion. Breaking through to the Pinnacle King realm wasn't something that could be done with a few million supreme-grade spirit crystals. However, Lu Ming's true yuan was still a little thicker and purer, reaching a limit. A mouthful of wine was actually more terrifying than a few million supreme-grade spirit crystals. Lu Ming was shocked. He had seen the man in his prime gulping down mouthfuls of wine without stopping. Not bad, not bad. In just half an hour, you were able to refine a mouthful of my wine. This is the first time I've seen a little guy like you. The robust man looked at Lu Ming and exclaimed. Senior, thank you for the wine. Lu Ming said. Do you want a few more mouthfuls? The robust man said. No. I don't want it. Lu Ming waved his hand repeatedly. He hadn't made a breakthrough in his intent realm yet, so drinking it would be a waste. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming asked, Junior is Lu Ming. How should I address Senior? Me? Yan Kuangtu, have you heard of him? The robust man said with a smile. What? You are Yan Kuangtu. Lu Ming's eyes widened, filled with astonishment. Almost everyone in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace knew who Yan Kuangtu was. Especially the Tian Divine Guards of the Tianxian region. Yan Kuangtu's entire life was a legend. Yan Kuangtu came from an unknown small mountain village in the eastern part of the Tianxian domain. However, with his peerless talent, he grew up step by step from a small mountain village and eventually became a rare genius in the Tianxian domain. Later, Supreme Nine Sons valued him and took him in as a disciple. After being taken in as a disciple by Supreme Nine Sons, he displayed even more terrifying talent. Countless geniuses and monsters were suppressed by him one by one. He stepped on all the geniuses and climbed all the way to become a top expert in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. It was said that Yan Kuangtu's cultivation was no weaker than his master, Supreme Nine Sons. This legendary figure was now standing in front of Lu Ming, alive and well. Lu Ming's feelings were the most special. Because Supreme Nine Sons' remnant soul was now in the Temple of Paragon. Supreme Nine Sons could be considered as Lu Ming's half-master. Without Supreme Nine Sons, Lu Ming wouldn't be where he was today. Yan Kuangtu was Supreme Nine Sons' disciple, so Lu Ming felt closer to him. Should I tell Yan Kuangtu about Supreme Nine Sons? No, I can't tell him. This matter is too big, I can't take the risk. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind, but he immediately rejected it. First of all, this matter was too unbelievable. Also, Yan Kuangtu was now in an important position by Martial Emperor De. What if he was on Martial Emperor De's side? If he told him, wouldn't he be courting death? Lu Ming decided not to say anything. At the very least, he would not say anything before he was powerful enough. So it's Senior Yan. Senior's name is like thunder to my ears. Lu Ming gathered his thoughts and cupped his fists. Ah, you're welcome. Alright, now, I'll take you back to the Tianxian domain. Yan Kuangtu said with a laugh. Go back. How do we go back? Lu Ming was confused. Of course, we'll fly back. Yan Kuangtu smiled slightly. In the next moment, a terrifying aura spread out from his body. This aura was more majestic than the ocean and as deep as the universe. As soon as this aura appeared, Yan Kuangtu immediately withdrew it. However, Lu Ming was still shocked. He felt that in front of this aura, any Peak King was like an ant or a speck of dust. At this moment, Dandan shrank his head in fear and grabbed Lu Ming's shoulder tightly with both hands. Whoosh! Yan Kuangtu stretched out his hand and drew a line in the air. The space was torn apart like a piece of paper, revealing a dark and deep space crack. Let's go. Yan Kuangtu grabbed Lu Ming's arm and stepped into the space crack. In an instant, Lu Ming felt dizzy. His surroundings were pitch black and he couldn't see anything. After a while, the world suddenly lit up. Lu Ming found that they were in the sky above a vast mountain range. Then, Yan Kuangtu stretched out his hand again and the space cracked again. Yan Kuangtu took Lu Ming and stepped into the space crack again. Tearing through space. This was tearing through space. If one's strength hadn't reached an incredible level, it would be impossible to do so. Lu Ming was shocked. Not long after, they appeared above a lake. Then, Yan Kuangtu continued tearing through space. This repeated over and over again toward Tianxian Domain. Tianxian Domain, Tianxian City. These days, it was extremely lively. Lanterns and colored banners were hung everywhere. This was because the #1 genius of Tianxian Domain, Xingxingchen of Eastern Wilderness list of top 1,000 talents, was going to marry the daughter of Tianxian Branch Palace Master. Countless people from all over Tianxian Domain came to congratulate them. These days, the city gates of Tianxian City were wide open and free to the public. In the first level of Tianxian City, there was a huge square. Thousands of tables had been set up in the square. Today was the wedding day of Xingxingchen and Mulan's. Many people walked toward the square. Those who could enter this place were all famous people in Tianxian Domain. Ordinary people didn't have this qualification. On the side of the square, Mu Xiuyuan and Mu Zheng, the palace master of Eastern Branch Palace, stood side by side in a pavilion. They looked at the lively crowd below. Sigh, it seems that nothing can be changed. Lan wanted to fight back, but in the end, she still came to this step. Mu Zheng sighed. Lu Ming has disappeared for half a year. I don't know why. Many people said that Lu Ming was afraid and knew that he was no match for Xingxingchen, so he went into hiding. I don't believe this. With Lu Ming's character, even if he is no match for Xingxingchen, he will still fight. Mu Xiuyuan said. Time is too short. It is indeed difficult for Lu Ming to defeat Xingxingchen. It is good that he didn't appear. It is also good for Lu Ming. Chapter 601. At this time, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan looked outside. Several figures were slowly approaching from the sky. Big brother, second brother, they're here. Xiuyuan, let's go. Mu Zheng pulled Mu Xiuyuan and stepped into the air to greet the newcomers. Greetings, big brother, second brother. Mu Zheng called out. Of the two people at the front, one was an old man with a head full of white hair, the other was a burly man who looked to be in his 50s. The burly man was Mu Zheng's big brother, Mulan's father, and the current palace lord of Dark Branch Palace, Mu Tian. The white-haired old man was Mu Zheng's second brother, Mu Yi. The age of a martial artist couldn't be determined by their appearance. Mu Tian was the oldest, but he looked to be in his 50s. Because his cultivation was the strongest and he had broken through to the spiritual sea realm, he looked the youngest. Mu Yi and Mu Zheng, on the other hand, looked like old men. Greetings, big uncle, second uncle. Mu Xiuyuan stepped forward and bowed. Mu Xiuyuan's father was ranked 5th, but he died in a battle in his early years. Alright, let's go up and take a seat. Mu Tian nodded and went to the high platform above the square. At the top of the square, there was a row of high platforms for people of status to sit on. After they sat down, they started chatting. Sixth brother, I heard that Lu Ming is from the Eastern Branch Palace. He was so arrogant that he dared to challenge the sacred star, but now he's gone into hiding. Mu Yi looked at Mu Zheng and smiled faintly. Second brother, Lu Ming was probably delayed by something. He might not have gone into hiding. The rumors outside can't be trusted. Mu Zheng said. Hee, is that so? I heard that Lu Ming challenged the sacred star because of Lan. Young people don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They don't have a clear understanding of their own status. Is Lan someone he's worthy of? Even if he has some talent, does our Mu clan lack talented youths? The sacred star is a peerless genius. Mu Yi sneered. Mu Yi and Mu Zheng had always been at odds with one another. Mu Yi would not let go of any opportunity to strike at Mu Zheng, even though they were brothers by blood. Second uncle, I don't think so. Lu Ming is no ordinary genius. Give him a few years and he'll definitely be on the list of top 1,000 talents. Mu Xiuyuan interjected. Enter the list of top 1,000 talents? How ignorant. Was it so easy to enter the list of top 1,000 talents? Just a kid from the eastern mountainous region? Young people are really whimsical. Alright, the elders are talking, don't interrupt. Mu Yi scolded, his voice full of disdain. Mu Xiuyuan's expression was somewhat ugly, but he did not continue speaking. Big brother, you have good taste. Xing Xingchen is from the Xing family, which is a good match for our Mu family. Moreover, he is a peerless genius. He is a perfect match for Lan. Mu Yi smiled. Mu Tian only nodded slightly and didn't say anything. Mu Yi continued, more importantly, Xing Xingchen's mother is too powerful. Once Lan, and Xing Xingchen get married, if we can establish a relationship with them, our Mu family will be able to develop steadily and become invulnerable. Mu Zheng's expression changed slightly when he heard this. He looked a little solemn. Indeed, Xing Xingchen's mother came from the main palace of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and was a direct descendant of a powerful family. Although the Mu family was extremely powerful in Tianxian domain, it was nothing compared to the main palace of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The main palace of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was the core of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Not only was Xing Xingchen's talent terrifying, but so was his background. Compared to him, Lu Ming was a far cry. In a huge mansion in the 4th district of Tianxian City. This was the mansion of the Xing family. At this moment, a group of people were gathered at the entrance of the mansion and chatting. I wanted to see Lu Ming get beaten up by the young master of Star Palace, but I didn't expect that guy to hide and not dare to show his face. Yeah, to think that I waited for half a year with anticipation. What a coward. He only knows how to boast. I already expected this result. If he doesn't hide and really challenges the young master of Star Palace, he will definitely die. In the eyes of such a person, face is nothing but life. These were the elites of the Xing family. Some of them had even been beaten up by Lu Ming, so they naturally hoped that Xing Xingchen could beat Lu Ming up. But they didn't expect Lu Ming to hide, which disappointed them greatly. The young master of Star Palace has come out. Someone shouted. A group of people walked out of the mansion. Xing Xingchen wore a festive red robe and walked in the center. Beside him was a middle-aged couple. They were Xing Xingchen's parents, the current rulers of the Xing family. There was another person who looked to be in his 40s. He was handsome and had a dignified aura. He was the elder brother of Xing Xingchen's mother and Xing Xingchen's uncle. He came from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Xingchen, go to the Mu family and welcome the bride. Your father, uncle, and I will wait for you at the banquet. Xing Xingchen's mother said. Yes, mother. Xing Xingchen nodded. Then, Xing Xingchen's mother and the others stepped into the air and went to the square of the 1st district. Xing Xingchen, on the other hand, went to the Mu family. In a pavilion of the Mu family, Mulan's was wearing a red robe, which made her look even more charming. But her brows were tightly knitted, and there was no trace of a smile on her face. Her eyes were lifeless and seemed a little empty. Lu Ming, what happened to you? Mulan's whispered. Mulan's knew that Lu Ming had gone to the forging sect. Later, the news of the forging sect's destruction spread. Since then, Lu Ming had disappeared without a trace. Mulan's was very worried that Lu Ming had met with an accident. As for the rumors that Lu Ming was afraid of Xing Xingchen and had gone into hiding, she did not believe it at all. She had watched Lu Ming grow up. She knew Lu Ming very well. He would not go into hiding because he was no match for Xing Xingchen. Lan are you okay? An old voice sounded behind Mulan's. Mulan's turned around and saw an old man. She forced a smile on her face and said, "Grandfather." This old man was naturally Yen Lan. As her grandfather, he naturally had to come to Mulan's wedding. Sigh. Looking at Mulan's appearance, Yen Lan let out a deep sigh. He had been hoping that Lu Ming could create a miracle. Unfortunately, Lu Ming had disappeared without a trace. Mulan's had resisted for more than 10 years, but in the end, she still had to marry someone she did not like under her father's will. Perhaps, this was fate. Miss Mulan's, young Master Xing Chen is here to welcome you. A young lady walked in and said. Mulan's face showed a sad smile. Tell young Master Xing Chen that I'll go right away. Mulan said. Lu Ming, where are you? Chapter 602. Yan Kuangtu took Lu Ming and tore through space more than 20 times. Whoosh! When the 27th light shone into Lu Ming's eyes, Yan Kuangtu stopped and did not continue to travel through space. We're here. Yan Kuangtu's slightly complicated voice sounded as he looked to the east. 100 miles away, a pitch-black city stood tall as if it had experienced the passage of time. That was Tianxian City. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of excitement. They had finally arrived at Tianxian City. At the same time, he was shocked. Traveling through space was too fast. Hong Domain and Tianxian Domain were separated by 16 large domains. Many of the large domains were larger than Tianxian Domain. But now, they had arrived at their destination. From start to finish, it would take about an hour. Lu Ming, I won't go to Tianxian City with you. I have to go to Ancient Desolation City to check out the situation. Yan Kuangtu said. Senior Yan, thank you for your help this time. Lu Ming cupped his fists and sincerely expressed his gratitude. You don't have to thank me. I destroyed the interdomain transmission array in Hong Domain, so you can't come back. Of course, I have to bring you along. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Senior, Lu Ming will take his leave. Lu Ming was a little anxious to return to Tianxian City. Go! Yan Kuangtu took a sip of wine and waved his hand. Lu Ming turned around and headed towards Tianxian City. Tianxian City is not simple. This kid will most likely be at a disadvantage if he goes there. Yan Kuangtu whispered. Then, he waved his hand and a ray of light flew into Lu Ming's body and disappeared. Lu Ming did not feel anything. With a slight smile, Yan Kuangtu's figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. Dandan, inscribe the inscription for True Origin Explosion for me. Lu Ming said to Dandan. This time, he had to win against the Sacred Star. He must not lose. Lu Ming had to be fully prepared. All right. Dandan began to inscribe inscriptions for Lu Ming. This time, he actually succeeded on the first try. Lu Ming felt his true essence surging, his entire body brimming with power. The distance of 100 li was covered in the blink of an eye. Arriving at the city gate, Lu Ming landed and entered the city. As soon as he entered the city gate, he felt that something was wrong. Everywhere was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and there was a joyous atmosphere. After asking around, Lu Ming's face paled. Today was the wedding day of Mulan's and Xingxingchen. I hope I can make it in time. Lu Ming rushed towards the square. The square was filled with guests and a sea of people. At the top of the square, Mu Tian and the others sat on one side while Xingxingchen's parents and elders sat on the other side. The bride and groom have arrived. A voice rang out. Everyone's gaze turned to the left side of the square. There, two figures walked over. They were none other than Xingxing and Mulan's. Xingxing had a faint smile on his face, but Mulan's didn't smile at all. Her face was as calm as still water. The two of them walked to the center of the square. The marriage of martial artists was different from that of ordinary people. Ordinary people needed to worship the heavens and the earth, but martial artists didn't. Martial cultivation was something that defied the heavens. Otherwise, when one broke through to the martial king realm, there wouldn't be a lightning tribulation from the heavens. Therefore, martial artists didn't need to worship the heavens and the earth when they got married. They only needed to kneel and worship their elders and ancestors. The people of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had one more thing, which was to pray to martial Emperor De. Once these steps were completed, the marriage would be considered official. Alright, the newlyweds will now kneel and worship the parents and elders of both parties. A voice rang out. Wait! Just as Xingxing and Mulans were about to kneel and worship the elders of both parties, a voice rang out and spread throughout the square. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Who was so daring to disturb the wedding ceremony of Xingxing and Mulans? Did they want to die? However, some people were different. When they heard the voice, their bodies trembled. First was Mulans. When she heard the voice, her delicate body trembled. She turned around abruptly with a pleasantly surprised expression on her face. Similarly, Mu Xiuyuan and Mu Jing reacted the same way. Their faces changed at first, then they were pleasantly surprised. As for the people of the Xing family, their faces turned gloomy. At this moment, everyone's gaze turned towards the source of the voice. A young man walked towards the square step by step. Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. Suddenly, someone shouted. It's really him. Didn't he hide? Why did he appear now? Could it be that he couldn't bear to leave Miss Mulans at the crucial moment and decided to run out? It's possible. Half a year ago, when Lu Ming challenged Xingxing, everyone thought that Lu Ming challenged Xingxing because of Mulans. They all thought that Lu Ming was interested in Mulans. Now that he appeared, many people naturally thought in this direction. Lu Ming, he finally appeared. Mu Xiuyuan muttered, his eyes filled with anticipation. Lu Ming. Mulans looked at Lu Ming. At this moment, Mulans seemed to be filled with vitality. Her eyes were full of splendor. Lu Ming. Xingxing whispered, his eyes as calm as an ancient well. Lu Ming couldn't be affected. Lu Ming. Sheng Yao and the rest who had grudges with Lu Ming looked at Lu Ming. There was a strong murderous intent in their eyes. This kid is Lu Ming. What is he trying to do? Disrupt the wedding? He's courting death. Mu Yi shouted coldly. Under countless gazes, Lu Ming walked towards Mulans and Xingxing step by step. Then, he stood a dozen meters in front of Mulans and Xingxing. Senior Mulans, long time no see. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You brat, I knew you'd come. Mulans also smiled faintly. Her smile was brighter than a flower, causing many young people to fall into a daze. Senior Mulans, let's catch up later. Right now, there are more important things to do. Lu Ming smiled, then looked at Xingxing and said, Xingxing, half a year has passed. Let's fight. How dare you? Who is this little bastard? How dare he disrupt Xingxing's wedding? He's courting death. Men, kill him. On the high platform, Xingxing's mother's eyes flashed coldly as she shouted. Yes. Two middle-aged burly men rushed out and rushed towards Lu Ming. Boom! Two terrifying auras emanated from the two of them. Ninth layer Martial King Realm. The two men were both ninth layer Martial King Realm experts, top figures among the Greater Success King Realm experts. Little bastard, kneel. The two burly men ran on the ground like two giant beasts, causing the ground to rumble. They instantly rushed to Lu Ming's sides, one on the left and one on the right, and grabbed Lu Ming's shoulders. Xingxing remained motionless. Mulans cried out in alarm, Lu Ming, watch out. However, Lu Ming remained motionless, as if he was scared silly. Bang! Bang! The two burly men accurately grabbed Lu Ming's shoulders and one of Lu Ming's arms with the other hand. Ah, you want to challenge Xingxing with such strength? What a fool! Mu Yi immediately sneered. This kid is overestimating himself. Sheng Yao and the others also sneered. However, in the next moment, they could no longer laugh. Kneel! The two burly men shouted as their true origin erupted. They grabbed Lu Ming's shoulders and pushed him down. Chapter 603. The two burly men's faces changed. Their eyes were filled with shock. Kneel! The two burly men roared again. Their bodies were covered in a bloody light. They had even activated their bloodline. Powerful true essence merged with the will of heaven and earth and pressed down on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not move an inch. The two burly men's faces turned red. Most of the people's faces changed. What are those two doing? Playing a game? Mu Jing smiled and looked at Mu Yi. Mu Yi's face darkened. This is interesting. Mu Tian, who had been silent, finally spoke. That little bastard. The mother of the sacred Star City gritted her teeth. Her face was even colder. Sheng Yao and the others were dumbfounded. Sacred Star, is this the battle you promised me? Lu Ming looked at the sacred star with disdain. You want to fight me? Let's see if you're qualified to do so. The sacred star said calmly. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly. His true essence burst out and he swung his arms. Bang! The two burly men were thrown into the air and slammed into each other. A series of cracking sounds were heard. The two burly men screamed. Many of their bones were broken. Lu Ming swung his arms and the two burly men were thrown a few hundred meters away like two piles of mud. They lay on the ground and screamed. Many people's faces changed. The two burly men were at the early stage of the 9th level Martial King realm. In Tianxian domain, they were definitely the most powerful people and could dominate a region. However, in front of Lu Ming, they seemed so weak and could not resist at all. In just half a year, Lu Ming had grown to this level? That was too terrifying. A hint of surprise flashed across the Saint Star's eyes. Huh. This kid is really good. He's from the east. Mu Jing laughed. He had been mocked by Mu Yi before. Now that he finally found a chance to fight back, he felt quite elated. Humph, you've only defeated two early-stage 9th layer Martial King realm cultivators. Besides, they were caught off guard and didn't even use any martial skills. What's there to be proud of? You're nothing compared to the sacred star. Mu Yi's face darkened and he snorted coldly. Early-stage 9th level Martial King realm experts. Hee, second brother, you're so arrogant. 9th level Martial King realm experts are nothing. Mu Jing laughed. This time, Mu Yi's face darkened, and he said nothing. What about now? Lu Ming gazed at the sacred star. He only said 3 words, but they made everything clear. Didn't the sacred star want to see if he was qualified? What about now? Too weak. The sacred star's reply was only 2 words, but it showed great confidence. Are you avoiding the fight? Lu Ming stared intently at the sacred star. Ridiculous, little bastard. You're not qualified to fight the young master of the sacred star. You'll have to go through me first. A cold snort was heard as a figure stepped out of the void and appeared in the square. The hearts of the crowd shuddered. There was no need to explain what it meant to walk on air in Tianxian City. It's Sheng Yao. He's going to fight. He's an elder of the Tianxian branch. That's normal. Lu Ming wants to challenge the sacred star today. He must prove himself with his strength. All around, countless people were whispering to each other. Many of them were experts from other parts of the Tianxian domain. They had never seen Lu Ming before, so they curiously sized up this outstanding young man. It had been a few years since anyone from the younger generation of the Tianxian domain had challenged the sacred star. Lu Ming's eyes fell on Sheng Yao. His eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Well, it's time to settle the score with you. Settle the score with me? Little bastard, I haven't seen you for half a year. I don't know where your confidence comes from. Xingyao sneered and stepped out. Boom! The formidable aura of a peak martial emperor burst out like a vast ocean. Xingyao's body also floated in the air. He looked down at Lu Ming and said, 10 moves. I'll suppress you in 10 moves. If I can't suppress you in 10 moves, this old man will admit defeat. Lu Ming shook his head and raised 3 fingers. Xingyao was stunned, then he sneered, what? You don't have confidence in yourself? You can only withstand 3 moves from me. No. Lu Ming shook his head again and said, 3 moves means I can suppress you in 3 moves. Otherwise, I'll admit defeat and leave. His words caused an uproar in the square. Lu Ming said he could suppress Xingyao in 3 moves. How was that possible? Crazy, he must be crazy. I thought he was a top figure, but it turns out he's just a fool who overestimates himself. Does he know what a peak king represents? Mu Yi sneered. Mu Xiuyuan and Mu Zheng were confused too. They found it hard to believe that Lu Ming could suppress Xingyao in 3 moves. On the platform, Mu Tian and Xing Xingqian's uncle, Xing Xingqian's father, the current patriarch of the Xing clan, Xing Cong, shook their heads. With their cultivation, they could easily tell that Lu Ming's cultivation was at the peak 9th layer martial emperor realm. Was it possible for a peak 9th layer martial emperor realm cultivator to suppress a peak king in 3 moves? You suppressed me in 3 moves? Ha ha ha. Xingyao burst out laughing as if he had just heard the funniest thing in the world. However, the next moment, he could no longer laugh. Lu Ming's body floated in the air as if he had become weightless. He flew to the same position as Xingyao and stood facing him. The crowd fell silent instantly. Floating in the air in Tianqian City. Has Lu Ming achieved the peak king realm? Someone exclaimed in astonishment. No, he's a peak 9th layer martial emperor realm cultivator. Lu Ming has comprehended the wind intent. That's why he can fly in the air. However, his battle strength is close to that of a peak king realm cultivator. Unbelievable, he can really fight a peak king realm cultivator? How long has it been? He's still so young. The crowd was shocked. Mu Yi was dumbfounded, while Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan burst out laughing after a brief pause. On the square, Xing Xingqian raised his eyebrows with a hint of interest for the first time. However, he was still confident that he was only interested. On the other hand, Xingyao's face darkened. Lu Ming was able to float in the air in Tianqian City. In a way, Lu Ming was already on the same level as him. Come on, use your strongest move. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. Lu Ming said. His voice was calm but full of confidence. Arrogant. Xingyao yelled as he unleashed his aura. He suddenly attacked. A large flaming hand was completely formed by flaming sword aura. It was several meters in length and width. Its power was shocking as it blasted toward Lu Ming. At the same time, he opened his mouth and a flaming ring flew out. It expanded rapidly until it was a few meters wide. It was covered in crimson flames and also shot toward Lu Ming. The 2 attacks were as powerful as lightning, and even the air was boiling from the scorching heat. Chapter 604. As soon as Xingyao made his move, he unleashed a thunderous attack in an attempt to suppress Lu Ming in one blow. Child's play. Lu Ming bellowed. A spear radiance rushed out from his body and soared into the sky. Bang! Xingyao's giant flaming palm was crushed by the spear radiance. Whoosh! Lu Ming soared into the sky and swept his spear at the giant ring. Clang! The huge ring kept shaking, and the scarlet flames were almost shaken off. A cracking sound came from the ring, and a hole appeared on it, and it flew far away. Poochie! Xingyao's face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated rapidly. How could this be? Xingyao screamed in his heart. It was unbelievable. His 2 moves, which were close to his full strength, were easily countered by Lu Ming. Moreover, Lu Ming even managed to injure him through the ring. This kind of combat strength was simply terrifying. Suppress! Lu Ming roared. He took a step forward and charged at Xingyao at lightning speed. He swept his spear at him from above. Xingyao roared in anger and exerted all his strength. He almost turned into a flaming man as he unleashed his strongest attack. However, all his efforts were in vain. Under Lu Ming's spear radiance, all his attacks turned into nothing. The giant spear radiance smashed onto Xingyao's body. Xingyao screamed in pain and his body flew downwards. Stop! Lu Ming waved his hand and a ribbon of true ether wrapped around Xingyao, stopping him from falling. Then, Lu Ming's body fell. His foot was about to stomp on Xingyao's old face. This stomp contained the power of the 9 dragon sky-ascending steps. No! Xingyao roared. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's foot accurately landed on Xingyao's face. Xingyao's body fell rapidly like a meteorite and heavily smashed onto the true ether shield below. A loud boom, accompanied by screams of agony and the sound of bones breaking, resounded throughout the arena. Then, everyone saw Xingyao lying on top of the Jin Yuan shield like an old, dead dog. His whole body was twitching and blood was flowing out of his mouth. Especially his face, there was a clear shoe print that almost flattened his old face. Hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. Countless people looked at Lu Ming in shock. 3 moves, it really was 3 moves. Including the last kick, it was exactly 3 moves. 3 moves, Lu Ming really suppressed Xingyao in 3 moves, and even beat Xingyao half to death. This, on the stage, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan were dumbfounded. Although they previously hoped that Lu Ming could win, in their hearts, they did not have much confidence. After all, half a year ago, Lu Ming was only a 4th-layer martial emperor. Being able to reach the Great Perfection King realm in half a year was already a miracle, let alone defeating a peak king. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that not only would Lu Ming win, but he would also win in such a clean and exciting manner. This kid, Mu Zheng could not stop muttering, feeling extremely excited. How long ago was it? 1.5 years ago, when Lu Ming had just entered the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, he was not even a half-step king. In just 1.5 years, Lu Ming was already standing at the peak of the king realm. It was simply a miracle. In the history of Tianxian domain, there had never been such a miracle. Beside Mu Zheng, Mu Yi's mouth was wide open. He was dumbfounded and also filled with disbelief. Below the arena, Mulan's looked at the young figure in the sky, feeling extremely excited. In her heart, scenes of the past kept flashing. The tender young man in Firestorm City, the young man who needed her protection. As time passed, he had already walked on his own path to becoming an expert. Not only had he far surpassed her, but he had also become a peak expert in Tianxian domain. He had become a mountain that could block the wind and rain, protecting her. Half a year ago, Lu Ming challenged the sacred star. Mulan's knew that Lu Ming was doing it for her. Then, Lu Ming disappeared for half a year. Half a year later, when she was about to get married, Lu Ming appeared again. He stood in front of her in a domineering manner, blocking everything for her. At this moment, her eyes were moist. She knew that she had not misjudged him. She had made the right choice. Lu Ming slowly walked down and appeared in front of the sacred star. What about now? It was still the same question. Now, did he have the qualifications to stand in front of the sacred star? Everyone's gaze followed Lu Ming's movements. In the sacred family, those who had conflicts with Lu Ming and even fought with him had complicated gazes. There was shock, horror, disbelief, and reverence. More than half a year ago, Lu Ming was still competing with them. But now, more than half a year had passed. Lu Ming had left them far behind. He was now able to stand in front of the sacred star. They were too far away from Lu Ming. They were no longer on the same level. Thinking of this, the elites of the sacred family felt dejected. There were also many people who had concluded that Lu Ming was hiding out of fear. Now, their faces were flushed with shame. Lu Ming wasn't hiding out of fear. He was probably cultivating somewhere. On the high platform, Mu Tian, Xingcang, and the Sacred Star's uncle's eyes moved slightly. They looked at Lu Ming seriously. Obviously, Lu Ming's combat strength had finally gained their recognition and made them take him seriously. The Saint Star had been very calm from the beginning to the end, but now, there seemed to be stars shining in his eyes, brilliant and dazzling. Not bad. The Sacred Star spoke. Let's fight in the sky. Lu Ming said. Then, he soared into the sky and appeared in the sky. The Sacred Star's body emitted starlight. He also soared into the sky and stood opposite Lu Ming. At this moment, many people's hearts pounded. They widened their eyes and stared at the two young figures in the sky. Lu Ming and the Sacred Star were finally going to fight? Half a year ago, Lu Ming's challenge to the Sacred Star spread throughout Tianxian City. Some people heard it and dismissed it with a laugh. They thought it was just a joke. Even if it wasn't a joke, Lu Ming couldn't really challenge the Sacred Star. The difference was too great. He wasn't qualified at all. Even if they really fought, it would be a one-sided battle. The Sacred Star would probably be able to suppress Lu Ming with a single palm. But now, no one thought that the Sacred Star could suppress Lu Ming with a single palm. Lu Ming had just used his strength to prove that he was qualified to fight against the Sacred Star. Some people even began to worry about the Sacred Star. Half a year ago, the Sacred Star was a peak 9th level martial king. At that time, the Sacred Star's combat strength was said to not be weaker than a peak king. But Lu Ming wasn't weaker than a peak king. He had suppressed a peak king in 3 moves. Had the Sacred Star broken through to peak king? If he hadn't, would he be a match for Lu Ming? Everyone stared at the Sacred Star. Your combat strength is not bad. Half a year ago, you might have been able to fight me. But now, the result won't change. Boom! As the Sacred Star's voice fell, a huge pillar of starlight shot out from the Sacred Star's body. It shot into the sky and into the endless void. A powerful aura permeated the air. Chapter 605. The Saint Star's body emitted a terrifying aura, and a vast pressure spread out. This was the aura of a peak king. Peak king. Sacred Star has become a peak king. God, Sacred Star is already very powerful. Now that he has become a peak king, how powerful will he be? He is indeed a peerless genius on the list of top 1,000 talents. Now, other than the Palace Master and a few Sea of Soul Realm experts, no one in Tianxian domain is his match. Lu Ming is doomed. He is no match for Sacred Star. The crowd was in an uproar. Many people had thought that Lu Ming could fight against Sacred Star City, but now they had changed their minds. Lu Ming was merely at the peak of LV9 Martial King realm. Although he could defeat Holy Glory, Holy Star and Holy Glory were two completely different concepts. Sacred Star, who had become a peak king, could easily kill Sacred Star with one move. Let's see how that kid can fight now. Mu Yi sneered. Xingchen, hurry up and cripple that little bastard. Don't delay the wedding day. Sacred Star's mother shouted. Has he really become a peak king? Lu Ming whispered. In Hong domain, Qin Qingshan's ranking was 1 rank lower than Sacred Star's. Since Qin Qingshan had become a peak king, Lu Ming guessed that Sacred Star had most likely become a peak king as well. Now, it was indeed so. Lu Ming, if you admit defeat and cripple your cultivation now, I can spare your life. Sacred Star's body was full of starlight. He looked like a god who had descended from the heavens to inspect the world. He was extremely confident. Sacred Star, do you think you can defeat me? Lu Ming stood in the void. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like 2 unsheathed swords, revealing a sharp battle intent. I'll let you know the difference between us. Sacred Star's eyes shone with starlight. At this moment, the starlight on his body boiled like a burning flame. Slash! With a soft shout, a star battle sword condensed. It was 1,000 feet long and slashed violently toward Lu Ming. Heaven's Law Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. The Heaven's Path Palm was only a martial technique that was infinitely close to the heaven level. However, with Lu Ming's current cultivation, it displayed a terrifying power that seemed to have surpassed its original level. A huge palm print with 9 fingers appeared. The stripes on it were clear, like the inscriptions of the heavenly way. It emitted a terrifying aura and blasted toward the giant star sword. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering boom rang out. Resplendent light shone in the sky. Some of the weaker cultivators felt a piercing pain in their eyes. Tears rolled down their cheeks, and they couldn't help but close their eyes. In the next moment, the light dissipated, and the palm and the massive sword vanished simultaneously. Xingxingchen, there's no need to test me. Show me your true strength. Otherwise, you'll end up like Xingyao. At some point in time, a long spear had appeared in Lu Ming's hand. His fighting spirit soared to the heavens. I'll grant you your wish. Star Sword Formula. The starlight on the sacred star grew even more resplendent. It was clearly daytime, but starlight fell from the depths of the sky, landing on the sacred star. The star intent was indeed mysterious. At the same time, a dazzling battle sword appeared in the sacred star's hand. With a wave of the battle sword, stars suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, the stars fell one by one towards Lu Ming, turning into swords of stars. They shot towards Lu Ming like streamers. Hundreds of streamers covered the sky, completely locking down Lu Ming's path of retreat. There was no way for him to escape. 10,000 dragons kill. Lu Ming stood still and stabbed out with his spear. Hundreds of tricolor true dragons flew out, roaring as they rushed towards the streamers of stars. Boom! 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 Like fireworks exploding, the rumbling continued. The sky was filled with resplendent light, which was incomparably gorgeous. However, no one was in the mood to watch. Their eyes were completely locked on Lu Ming and the sacred star. It's my turn. Lu Ming said softly. He slowly walked out, his long spear shining brightly. With a stab, a huge tricolor true dragon roared and pounced towards the sacred star. Star sword, 10,000 swords become one. The sacred star waved his hand. 10,000 stars seemed to enter the sacred star's battle sword as he slashed out. Boom! Another explosion sounded in the sky. Many people felt their eardrums vibrating and their heads buzzing. In shock, they hurriedly circulated their true yuan to protect their eardrums. Dazzling lights appeared in the sky and then disappeared. Kill! Kill! The two figures got closer and closer to each other. Finally, they collided heavily against each other. The space shook violently as if it couldn't bear the weight. Boom! 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 The two figures turned into two streaks of light as they exchanged blows in the air. Streaks of unbridled force tore through the void and fell down continuously. If it weren't for the true yuan barrier set up by the elders, the tables and chairs below would have all been destroyed. Even so, the true yuan barrier continued to tremble. The expressions of the dozen or so peak kings changed, and they were incomparably shocked. Just the overflowing energy was enough to make them feel a huge pressure. If they really participated in the battle, wouldn't they be easily killed? Was this still the power of a king? At the scene, countless eyes stared at the sky without blinking. Their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Lu Ming was actually able to contend with the sacred star and fight it to this extent. Today, regardless of whether Lu Ming won or lost, he was destined to be famous in the Tianxian domain. He would leave a thick mark in the history of the Tianxian domain. Damn it, I will definitely kill this little bastard. The sacred star's mother growled. Her eyes revealed a sinister look. Boom! Boom! The battle in the sky continued. It was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had been exchanged. Buzz! At this time, a layer of blood light spread out from the sacred star's body. Then, starlight spread out and a scroll appeared above Shinxingshan's head. The scroll opened, and 7 stars shone on it. They were the 7 heavenly stars. On the scroll, 7 silver chakras were emitting rays of light. This was the sacred star's second bloodline, the 7th grade king bloodline. The sacred star's bloodline erupted, and his aura became stronger. You have a bloodline, but I don't. Explode! Boom! Shinxingshan's second bloodline erupted. It was also a 7th grade king. Now, both of Lu Ming's bloodlines had been promoted to the 7th grade king. However, Lu Ming did not erupt his 9 dragons bloodline. Lu Ming decided that in the future, he would try not to use the 9 dragons bloodline in crowded places, especially in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Although Supreme Nine's sons had helped him seal his aura, who knew if anyone would guess something from his appearance? It was better to be careful. The eruption of their bloodlines made the battle more intense, and the battle became more intense. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had been exchanged. Look, Lu Ming is at a disadvantage. That's right, he is no match. He is being suppressed. The sacred star's attacks are increasing, and Lu Ming's attacks are decreasing. That's right, Lu Ming is going to lose. Chapter 606. Kill. The Saint Star's aura was like a rainbow as starlight fell from the sky. Sword chi swept toward Lu Ming like a tide. In the Saint Star, no matter if it was the physical body, the cultivation technique, or the martial skills, they were all extremely powerful, far surpassing ordinary geniuses. Their battle prowess was extremely terrifying, and ordinary geniuses of the same level as him wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from him. Slowly, he began to suppress Lu Ming and gain the upper hand. At this moment, a murderous storm was brewing in the Saint Star's eyes. He wanted to kill Lu Ming. He was a peerless genius on the list of top 1,000 geniuses of the Eastern Wilderness and had entered the peak-level king realm. He had wanted to show his ambition and increase his ranking. But now, he was blocked by a peak-level martial king martial artist and couldn't even defeat him. If this news spread, it would be a fatal blow to his reputation. His thoughts were exactly the same as Shinxingshan's. This was the arrogance of a peerless genius. Star-slashing sword. With a loud roar, the Saint Star merged with his sword and slashed out with his strongest sword. This sword seemed to be able to cut down the stars in the sky. Hence, its name, Star-slashing sword. Extreme Dao strike. Lu Ming also used his strongest attack. Boom! 2 rays of light collided in the sky, like a sun exploding. It was terrifying. Endless storms and powerful chi fell down. The true yuan of the peak-level kings started to vibrate violently. The peak-level kings' expressions changed drastically as they frantically retreated. On the high platform, Mu Tian's eyes flickered. With a wave of his hand, a ray of true yuan spread out and covered the peak-level king's true yuan, blocking the powerful chi above. After a boom, the 2 figures quickly retreated. Lu Ming retreated 1,000 meters, while the Saint Star retreated 500 meters. It was obvious who had the upper hand. The 2 looked at each other from afar. Lu Ming, your combat strength is not bad, but it's all over today. Boom! As the Saint Star's voice fell, an even stronger aura exploded from his body. It was much stronger than before. Heavens, the sacred star was still hiding its strength. This is the unique usage of a unique bloodline. Everyone's bloodline contains endless secrets. Ordinary people can only unleash their bloodline to increase their strength, but some geniuses are able to comprehend certain secrets from their bloodline, such as martial skills or secret techniques. The Saint Star is such a person. Lu Ming is finished. He's even less likely to be a match. Exclamations could be heard all around. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Previously, Shinxingshan had done the same. He had almost turned himself into an ice statue, and his battle prowess had greatly increased. That was also a secret skill that he had comprehended from his bloodline. Until now, Lu Ming had not comprehended anything from his bloodline. The bloodline of the 9 dragons could devour all things. In fact, it could be said to be a secret art. Once awakened, he would possess it. As for the second bloodline, it was always covered by a layer of mist. Right now, he could only see the word suppress. It was as if there was a layer of something blocking it. Lu Ming couldn't observe it at all, let alone comprehend it. Lu Ming. Below, Mulans looked worried, her hands clutching her clothes tightly. Lu Ming, this battle is over. The sacred star walked in the air, his aura strong and powerful. Is it really over? Yes, it should be over. It seems that I still have to use that power. Lu Ming whispered and sighed slightly. Boom! The next moment, Lu Ming's aura burst out violently and rose sharply. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura was crazy. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lu Ming's aura has also risen. Heavens! And it's rising so quickly, more than the sacred star. It's terrifying. Sensing the violent vital essence in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. This was the power of the Dandan inscription array. Just now, Lu Ming had been suppressing the true essence in his body, keeping it at Lu Ming's original strength. He wanted to see the difference between his strength and the sacred stars. The sacred star was indeed stronger than Qin Qing Shan. How could this be? The people of the sacred family, the sacred star's mother, Mu Yi, and the others all cried out in disbelief. This fellow is forever unfathomable. Mulans exhaled and smiled. Mu Xiuyuan and Mu Zhang were the same. The sacred star's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a trace of disbelief flashed in them. Sacred star, this battle should be over. Fight! Lu Ming shouted, stepping into the void and strolling out. With every step he took, the void shook violently, the power of the 9 dragon sky-stomping steps erupted. Slash! The sacred star exploded, and the battle sword was incomparably bright, as if it could split the space. The power of Lu Ming's first step was easily broken, but the power of the second step quickly followed. When the sacred star broke the power of the second step, his face changed slightly, and he felt a great pressure. But immediately, the power of the third step arrived. The third step was even stronger, several times stronger than the second step. Slash! The sacred star roared and slashed out with his sword. Boom! With a loud explosion, the sacred star's body shook violently, and he quickly retreated. The whole place was in an uproar. The sacred star had retreated, and he was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming, who was at the peak of LV9 Martial King realm, was able to fight the sacred star and force him to a disadvantage. No, the sacred star can't lose. That little bastard, he deserves to die. The sacred star's Mu Qing screamed with hatred. Ah! The sacred star roared, his hair flying wildly, and his starlight surging. He could not stand being suppressed by Lu Ming. What are you screaming for? Your fate is sealed. Lu Ming sneered and strode forward. Kid, let's stop here. It's enough for today's battle. Next, pretend to lose to the sacred star. At this moment, a voice entered Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming was stunned, and then he sneered. It seemed that someone could no longer sit still. Lu Ming's gaze swept the surroundings. Kid, don't look around. I'm the sacred star's uncle. I'll tell you straight, the sacred star's identity is not something you can compare to. Not only is he a member of the sacred family, but he also has the bloodline of the Shangguan. You can't defeat him. Today, the winner must be the sacred star. If you defeat him, I guarantee that you will die. The voice sounded again. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the high platform. In the end, his gaze landed on a middle-aged man who was wearing a jade crown. This man was the sacred star's uncle, Shangguan Wuchen. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Ridiculous, this is ridiculous. Seeing that the sacred star was at a disadvantage, someone jumped out and asked him to lose to the sacred star on purpose. The reason was that the sacred star had the bloodline of the Shangguan clan, and his identity was higher than his. Otherwise, Lu Ming would die. Lu Ming had never heard of such a ridiculous thing. It was simply despicable. Would Lu Ming listen to him? Obviously not. Bang! Chapter 607. Boom! Lu Ming stepped out, surrounded by the three-colored essence. He held a long spear in his hand, his long hair fluttering in the wind. He stood as straight as a mountain. Roar! A huge tricolor true dragon with dense scales pounced towards the sacred star with a deafening roar. It was the same true dragon attack, but it was much more powerful than before. Saint Star roared. He waved his hand, and a small tower shining with starlight appeared in front of him. The small tower expanded rapidly and blocked in front of him. Saint Star had lost his confidence and began to defend himself. Boom! The three-colored dragon pounced on the small tower, and it was sent flying. Saint Star retreated rapidly, his body trembling slightly, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He was injured. Boom! But Lu Ming did not give him a chance to breathe. His long spear turned into a huge spear radiance and smashed towards Saint Star with the force of Mount Tai. The spear smashed Saint Star thousands of meters away, and he spat out blood from his mouth. Saint Star is going to lose. God, I never thought that someone in Tianxian domain could defeat Saint Star. Everyone at the scene stared at the sky with their eyes wide open in shock. Since the rise of the Saint Star, he had been invincible. In the Tianxian region, all the other geniuses and monstrous geniuses were nothing in front of the Saint Star. His cultivation speed was terrifying, and his combat strength was unparalleled. He had suppressed the younger generation of Tianxian domain, and he had never lost a battle among the younger generation. Later, Saint Star even left Tianxian domain and went to other large domains to cultivate and compete with the geniuses of other large domains. How was his record? Others did not know, but he was listed on the list of top 1,000 talents of Eastern Wilderness. It had been many years since anyone from Tianxian domain had been listed on the list of top 1,000 talents of Eastern Wilderness. This was enough to prove everything. The Saint Star had too many light scars on its body. But was such a peerless genius going to be defeated today? Was he going to be defeated by someone younger and with a lower cultivation level than him? Many people thought they were dreaming. Damn you little bastard! Bastard! Saint Star's mother, Shangguan Wuling, screamed when she saw Saint Star being sent flying. You're courting death. At the side, Shangguan Wuchen slapped the armrest of his chair and shouted in a low voice. Then, he flicked his finger and a stream of energy pierced through the void and silently entered Lu Ming's body. None of the martial emperor realm cultivators at the scene felt it. Beside Shangguan Wuchen, Xingcang raised his eyebrows and sneered. On the other side, Mu Tian's expression changed slightly as a trace of displeasure flashed through his eyes. However, he did not take any action. In the sky, Lu Ming's fighting spirit soared. Just as he was about to finish off the sacred star in one go, his expression suddenly changed. He felt a strange true yuan suddenly appear in his meridians. This true yuan was like a wild beast, rampaging through his meridians. His meridians felt a burst of pain, and the true yuan in his body was almost scattered by this true yuan. Despicable! You actually dared to secretly tamper with him. Lu Ming's mind was very sharp. He immediately thought of the middle-aged man, Xingqian's uncle. Xingqian, attack with all your might. At this moment, Shangguan Wuchen's voice rang in Xingqian's ears. Xingqian originally thought that he would be defeated today. However, his eyes suddenly lit up and he let out a long roar. Starlight surged and crossed the void, charging towards Lu Ming. Dazzling sword light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. Damn it! Lu Ming roared and waved his long spear to block. However, Lu Ming's true yuan was scattered and his meridians were in pain. He could only use 10% of his true yuan, which greatly reduced his combat strength. He was sent flying 1,000 meters by Xingxingchen's sword. Lu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood from the internal and external collision. How despicable! How dare you use such a despicable method? Dandan, who was on Lu Ming's shoulder, shouted. Dandan's voice spread far and wide. At the scene, everyone looked at each other, puzzled. Just a moment ago, Lu Ming clearly had the upper hand and was about to win. Why did he suddenly stop his attack? At the same time, Xingxingchen suddenly attacked and injured Lu Ming with a single move. Hearing Dandan's shout, some people's eyes flickered and all kinds of guesses appeared in their minds. Could it be that someone secretly interfered with Lu Ming? Mulan's, Mu Zheng, Mu Xiuyuan, and the others' eyes flickered with anger as they looked towards the Xing family's platform. Only a Sea of Soul realm expert would be able to do such a thing without anyone noticing. What do you mean by someone tampering with him? This little bastard obviously cultivated some kind of evil martial art that increased his combat strength in a short period of time. It's just that the side effects are acting up now. Shangguan Wuling said coldly. Seeing that Xingxingchen had the upper hand, she was overjoyed. Kill! How could Xingxingchen miss this opportunity? He crazily attacked Lu Ming. Damn it! Devour! Lu Ming controlled the Nine Dragons bloodline with all his strength. A powerful devouring power appeared in his spine and swallowed the Jin Yuan. At the same time, he barely resisted Xingxingchen's attack. Like this, he was naturally no match for Xingxingchen and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and felt waves of pain coming from his body. It's working. However, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He could feel that Jin Yuan was being devoured by the Nine Dragons bloodline. Although the true origin struggled with all its might like a ferocious beast, it was still slowly being devoured. Block it. I just need to block it for a dozen breaths and this Jin Yuan will be devoured. Lu Ming roared in his heart. Lu Ming burst out with 3 types of intent and circulated the Jin Yuan he could control, trying his best to resist. Boom! 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 Others could see that Lu Ming was completely at a disadvantage and could only passively resist. Under Xingxingchen's attacks, he was like a lone boat in the sea that could be destroyed at any time. Die! Die! You little bastard! How dare you compete with my son? Shangguan Wuling roared in her heart. Lu Ming! Mulan's clenched her fists tightly and was extremely worried. Soon! Soon! One breath after another passed. That Jin Yuan was being devoured inch by the Nine Dragons bloodline. 2 more inches, 1 more inch, ha ha ha, Lu Ming, go to hell. Do you think you can compete with me? Xingxingchen laughed. He had to win today. Although he had guessed that it was his uncle who did it, it didn't matter. As long as he could win, it was fine. Clang! He slashed out a powerful sword light towards Lu Ming's neck. He had already decided to kill Lu Ming, so he didn't mind doing it now. Is that so? You only know how to use despicable means. How dare you compare yourself with me? At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes flashed and his aura burst out. Roar! A tricolor true dragon flew out, catching the Saint Star off guard and sending it flying. Cracking sounds could be heard from its chest as it broke several bones. It flew 2,000 meters away, blood gushing out of its mouth. Its eyes were filled with disbelief. Xingchen! Shangguan Wuling screamed. Bang! Shangguan Wuchen slammed the chair again as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Chapter 608. You're courting death. Let's see how many you can break. Shangguan Wuchen muttered in his heart. He flicked his finger, and another true yuan flew toward Lu Ming. On the other side, Mu Tian frowned, and the displeasure in his eyes intensified. He also flicked his finger, and a blast of energy flew out and collided with Shangguan Wuchen's energy, canceling each other out. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes turned cold, and he transmitted his voice, Brother Mu, what is the meaning of this? Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. As the palace master of the Tianxian branch, I have to ensure the fairness of the battle. Mu Tian transmitted his voice. Mu Tian, don't you want to marry your daughter to Xing Chen? Shangguan Wuchen said coldly. That's another matter. Mu Tian transmitted his voice, and his attitude was firm. At this time, Lu Ming stepped forward and crossed the void, charging toward the Holy Star. He wanted to end the battle quickly. Who knew if there would be another blast of true yuan? Boom! 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 The 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps took 3 consecutive steps, and a violent force blasted toward the Holy Star. The Holy Star was seriously injured, and there was no way it could resist. It was beaten until it vomited blood. The rest of the people present were stunned, and they couldn't wrap their heads around it. Previously, Lu Ming had the upper hand and was about to win. Suddenly, his combat strength was greatly reduced, and he was suppressed by the Holy Star. But suddenly, Lu Ming erupted again and seriously injured the Holy Star. What was going on? Let's end this. Lu Ming whispered. He held the spear with both hands, and a huge spear light smashed toward the Holy Star. Stop! This battle is a draw. A loud roar suddenly rang out, and it spread throughout the whole place. It was Shangguan Wuchen's voice. A draw? Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. The spear gleam did not stop at all. Bang! The spear heavily smashed into Sacred Star's body. Sacred Star let out a pitiful scream as his body fell to the ground like a meteor. Finally, he smashed into the True Essence light curtain like a little chick. Blood splattered everywhere. The True Yuan light screen shook violently, and the Holy Star was like a pile of mud, lying on the True Yuan light screen. Although he didn't die, he didn't know how many of his bones were broken. The entire place was silent. The air seemed to have frozen. Did Lu Ming win? Xing Chen. Shangguan Wuling screamed and rushed down from the stands to Xing Xing's side. You little bastard, you little bastard. How dare you injure Xing Chen so severely? Die! I want you dead. Men, skin this little bastard alive and feed him to the dogs. Shangguan Wuling screamed with hatred. Instantly, some of the elders of the Saint family unleashed their powerful auras. What are you doing? Does the heavenly mysterious domain belong to your Xing clan? Mu Zheng stood up and roared, his aura exploding. Sixth brother, what are you doing? This is the Xing family's matter, why are you interfering? Mu Yi said coldly. Shut up. Mu Zheng berated. Then, he strode forward and stared at the people of the Xing family. Some of the elders of the Mu family who were on good terms with Mu Zheng also stood together with him and stared at the people of the Xing family. Mu Yi's face darkened. Pooh! At this moment, Xing Xing spat out another mouthful of blood and looked at Lu Ming with hatred. Xing Xing, you've lost. You're not qualified to marry senior sister Mulan's. Lu Ming stared at Xing Xing and said slowly. Mulan's eyes were moist. Lu Ming finally did it. He finally defeated Xing Xing. When she was younger, Mulan had said in front of the Holy Star, Mu Tian, Xing Cang, and the others that she wanted to find someone to defeat the Holy Star and prove that the Holy Star wasn't worthy of her. She said that there would be a better choice. At that time, Mu Tian, Xing Cang, and the others took Mulan's words as a joke and agreed. Who would have thought that such a day would come? Lu Ming, sooner or later, I'll trample you under my feet and chop off your head. Sacred Star glared at Lu Ming with resentment and hissed. After this battle, his reputation would fall to the bottom of the valley. Hee, Xing Xing, I remember that half a year ago, you said that you'll let me know what despair is. I'll never be able to catch up to you. How about now? Lu Ming said indifferently. Half a year later, I'll let you know what despair is. You'll never be able to catch up to me. Xing Xingchen had personally said these words half a year ago. Even now, many people still remembered them. The past was still vivid in their minds, but half a year later, Lu Ming not only caught up to him, but also defeated him. How ironic was that? Xing Xing's face darkened, but he couldn't refute it. Now, let me tell you something. I can defeat you today, but you'll never be able to catch up to me in the future. From now on, Xing Xing is no longer worthy to be my opponent. Lu Ming's voice was calm, but everyone could hear his strong confidence and unwavering martial heart. In front of them, they saw a peerless genius blossoming in the divine wilderness continent. Xing Xing's chest heaved up and down, and he almost spurted out blood. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura spread out, like a vast ocean, pressing down on everyone's heart. Suddenly, everyone couldn't breathe properly, and their hearts raced. They looked at the place where the aura came from. It was Shangguan Wuchen. Shangguan Wuchen stood up, his face dark. The aura on his body was as deep and vast as a vast ocean. What future? You have no future. I told you to stop and end it in a draw. This should have been the best ending, but you didn't listen. You're courting death. Shangguan Wuchen spat out a gloomy voice, and every word was filled with killing intent. End it in a draw? Ridiculous. Do you think everyone here is a fool? Lu Ming's gaze was like lightning. He looked at Shangguan Wuchen fearlessly. He didn't believe that Shangguan Wuchen would dare to attack him in front of so many people. They're not fools, but they have to be fools in front of my Shangguan clan. Shangguan Wuchen sneered as he stepped forward in the air. His words were blatantly domineering and forceful. Everyone's face turned ugly, but when they thought of the Shangguan clan's strength, they shut their mouths. Second brother, kill him. Kill this bastard. Shangguan Wuling screamed. Today, you must die. Shangguan Wuchen said word by word, filled with killing intent. Lu Ming's pupils shrank, and he felt goosebumps all over his body. Shangguan Wuchen was really going to kill him. Lu Ming's true origin circulated quickly, and he raised his aura to the maximum, ready to break out of the encirclement. Brother Shangguan, don't go too far. At this moment, Mu Tian stood up and said in a majestic voice, and a powerful aura shrouded Shangguan Wuchen. Mu Tian, what are you doing? Is your Mu family trying to go against my Shangguan clan? Can you afford to pay the price? Shangguan Wuchen looked at Mu Tian, still domineering. Big brother, don't be foolish. Mu Yi said. Shut up. Chapter 609. Mu Yi's face turned pale and he kept his mouth shut. This is the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. I am the Palace Master of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Lu Ming is the Imperial Sky Divine Guard of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Even if Lu Ming has done something wrong, he will be punished by the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. Mu Tian's strength was also very strong. As a person, he had his own principles and bottom line. Moreover, he was the Palace Master of the mysterious Sky Branch Palace. If he just watched Lu Ming being killed by Shangguan Wuchen, what would the other Imperial Sky Divine Guards think of him? How much prestige would he have left? How many people would trust him in the future? Mu Tian, are you really going to stop me? Shangguan Wuchen's face darkened. However, Mu Tian had no intention of stopping. The Mu clan was able to rise so quickly in the Tianxian domain because of their background. The Mu clan also had a background, but he did not want to use it unless he had no other choice. Brother Mu, if you want to find an opponent, I will accompany you. At this moment, Xingcang stood up and an aura as deep as the sea erupted from his body. This aura shrouded Mu Tian. Mu Tian's face changed. Huh. Shangguan Wuchen sneered and continued to walk towards Lu Ming. Mu Tian's face darkened. However, Xingcang's strength was not weaker than his. With Xingcang holding him back, it would be difficult for him to help. You're just a lowly bastard, an ant. You want to stand shoulder to shoulder with a real dragon? Even if you have such thoughts, you will be punished with death. Shangguan Wuchen looked down at Lu Ming from a lofty position. His eyes were full of disdain. Obviously, he was comparing the sacred star to a real dragon and Lu Ming to an ant. The reason was that the sacred star had the blood of the Shengguan clan flowing in his body. Boom! Having said that, Shengguan Wuchen slapped towards Lu Ming. A palm print exuded a terrifying aura and pressed down on Lu Ming. The pressure was like an ocean, pressing down on Lu Ming. Extreme Dao Strike. At this moment, Lu Ming unleashed his full strength, including the bloodline of the 9 dragons. His essence, energy, and spirit were highly concentrated, transforming into a resplendent spear. This spear strike was Lu Ming's ultimate spear strike. It had reached Lu Ming's current strongest attack. Everyone only saw a spear light shoot up into the sky and collide with a palm print that was as vast as the sea. Then, endless light flashed. Countless pairs of eyes widened as they stared at the sky. Lu Ming was actually going to take the attack of a Sea of Soul Realm expert head-on? Would he be slapped to death? Boom! Amidst a shocking explosion, the resplendent spear light was shattered, and a figure fell to the ground like a meteor. Bang! 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 When Lu Ming landed on the ground, he first slid back a few hundred meters before retreating a few dozen steps. Every step he took caused the ground to rumble violently, as if a mountain had crashed down. If not for the fact that the ground of Tianxian City was incomparably tough and filled with inscriptions, there would have been dozens of craters by now. Puff! After retreating a few dozen steps, Lu Ming used his spear to support himself as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His arm trembled incessantly, and he could no longer feel it. His entire body was in pain, and a layer of blood was faintly seeping out of his skin. Is this the power of a Sea of Soul Realm expert? It is indeed frightening. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. His strongest attack could easily kill a Peak King, and it had already far surpassed them. However, he was still heavily injured after taking the attack of a Sea of Soul Realm expert head-on. This was even with the protection of the 9-dragon bloodline, which had devoured a portion of the attack power. Moreover, he didn't even know how much power the opponent had used. Not dead? Shengguan Wuchen's eyes turned cold. Lu Ming's vitality had exceeded his expectations. Let's see how many moves you can take. The killing intent emitted from Shengguan Wuchen's body became even colder. Lu Ming! Mulan shouted worriedly as she rushed toward Lu Ming. However, Shengguan Wuchen waved his hand, and a terrifying pressure descended on Mulan's, making it hard for her to move. On the other side, Mu Zheng and Mu Xiuyuan were also extremely worried. They wanted to help, but they were powerless against a Sea of Soul Realm expert. I can only use the lightning cauldron to fight. Lu Ming's eyes turned ruthless as he started to communicate with the lightning cauldron. To be honest, today's events were somewhat out of his expectations. Before this, he didn't know that the sacred star had such a strong background. He didn't expect that there would be a Sea of Soul Realm expert besides Xingcang and Mu Tian. He also didn't expect that the other party would be so strong as to kill him in front of everyone. However, even if Lu Ming knew about it, he would still do it. He would not back down. There were some things that couldn't be backed down. Backing down wasn't his character, nor was it his martial path. Kill! A cold word came out from Shengguan Wuchen's mouth. A terrifying palm print appeared once again and charged toward Lu Ming. Before the palm print arrived, a terrifying pressure had already locked onto Lu Ming. This palm print was much more terrifying than the previous one. There was no way to avoid it, so he could only take it head-on. Come on, even if I die, I'll make you suffer. The ruthlessness in Lu Ming's eyes intensified. Although the lightning cauldron was strong, Lu Ming wasn't confident that he could kill Shengguan Wuchen in one blow. However, he could at least severely injure the other party. Just as Lu Ming was about to take out the lightning cauldron and fight to the death, a rainbow light suddenly shot out from his body. The rainbow light condensed into a blurry figure in the sky. This figure slapped out a palm, and the heavens and the earth shook. Shengguan Wuchen's palm print, which was coming down, was slapped away without a trace. Is that Senior Yen? The sudden change caused Lu Ming to stop controlling the lightning cauldron and look at the blurry figure above his head. Although the figure was blurry, Lu Ming could still recognize that it was Yan Kuangtu. At this moment, everyone was stunned as they looked at the blurry figure above Lu Ming's head. Just a moment ago, they thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure. However, a powerful figure suddenly rushed out from his body and destroyed Shengguan Wuchen's palm print with a single slap. Many people couldn't react in time. This is, Mu Tian and Xingcang couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. Shengguan Wuchen's eyes flashed with a bright light, and it was extremely gloomy and cold as he said, "Little bastard, so there's an expert standing behind you. No wonder you're so arrogant. But let me tell you something. If my Shengguan clan wants to kill someone, then no one can save you. Kill!" Shengguan Wuchen suddenly shouted and a battle sword appeared in his hand. Sword Chi soared into the sky. This battle sword was definitely a 6th-level spiritual weapon. It was extremely powerful and it rapidly grew in the sky. It became 100 feet long and slashed down at Lu Ming. The power of this sword strike was terrifying and shocking. Space trembled like water waves, and ripples appeared. However, the figure on top of Lu Ming's head slapped him again. Clang! The slap landed on the battle sword and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Everyone was dumbfounded as they saw Shengguan Wuchen's battle sword being sent flying. This scene was too terrifying. Chapter 610. What kind of existence is this? There's actually such an expert behind Lu Ming. At this moment, they couldn't help but re-evaluate Lu Ming. This youth who came from a remote village in the eastern part of Tianxian domain wasn't as simple as they thought. His battle strength was unrivaled, and he even defeated a Saint Star expert. Now, there was an unknown expert behind him. How could such a background be simple? "Sir, who are you?" "I'm the Heavenly Divine Palace's main palace, a direct descendant of the Shengguan clan. This is my Shengguan clan's matter. I hope you won't meddle in it." Shengguan Wuchen stared at the blurry figure above Lu Ming's head. However, that voice only stood there motionlessly and did not say anything. "Second brother, attack. Continue attacking. This is just a figure with limited energy. Today, this little bastard must die. No matter who's behind him, we're Shengguan clan's disciples. How dare he touch us?" Shengguan Wuling screamed. "Sir, since you're determined to protect this kid, then you'll have to be prepared to go against my Shengguan clan." Shengguan Wuchen said again. "Ha ha, go against your Shengguan clan? So what? Don't try to scare me with your bullshit Shengguan clan." At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly came from the sky. Everyone was shocked. Since when was there someone in the sky? Especially Shengguan Wuchen, Xingcang, and Mu Tian, the 3 Sea of Soul Realm experts. Their faces changed drastically. They couldn't even sense a trace of aura from a person who appeared above them. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the sky. Up in the sky, a figure was seated in the void, holding a gourd and gulping down wine. "Senior Yen!" Lu Ming shouted in joy. "Sir, who are you? Although your cultivation is high and I admit that I'm no match for you, if you really want to offend my Shengguan clan for this kid, I'm afraid you'll bring unnecessary trouble to yourself." Shengguan Wuchen continued. His tone was still full of threats. However, he didn't notice that Xingcang, Mu Tian, Mu Yi, Mu Zheng, and the other elders of Tianxian domain were stunned. They looked at the figure in the sky with a complicated expression. "Shengguan, let's forget about today's matter." At that moment, Xingcang spoke to Shengguan Wuchen. "What?" Shengguan Wuchen was stunned. "Xingcang, what did you say?" "Today, the one who was seriously injured and humiliated is your own son. You actually want to give up? Are you even a man?" Shengguan Wuling glared at Xingcang and shouted. "All right, I'm doing this for your own good." Xingcang said. "Who is he?" asked Shengguan Wuchen. He felt that Xingcang should know him. "He is Yan Kuangtu." Shengtsong said with mixed feelings. He didn't lower his voice, so everyone could hear him. Silence. The scene suddenly quieted down. All eyes were fixed on the unruly figure in the sky. Yan Kuangtu. He was a legend in the Tianxian region, or even in the eastern wasteland. In the Tianxian region, there was no one who did not know about the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was a peerless genius who came out of the Tianxian region 100 years ago. Many elders had watched him grow, but most of them had never seen Yan Kuangtu before. At this moment they opened their eyes wide and looked at the legendary figure. Slowly, many people became excited. They discussed excitedly and looked at the figure in the sky. Yan Kuangtu. Shangguan Wuchen's eyes were also filled with shock. Then, he recalled what he had just said and his face turned pale. What he had said might be useful to others, but it was useless to Yan Kuangtu. Who was Yan Kuangtu? What was his cultivation? Yan Kuangtu was an extremely powerful and lawless figure. Even the old ancestor of the Shangguan clan had to tremble with fear in front of Yan Kuangtu. With Shangguan Wuchen's status, it was impossible for him to meet Yan Kuangtu in the past. He also thought of some rumors about Yan Kuangtu. It was said that Yan Kuangtu was a lawless person. Once, when a super family offended Yan Kuangtu went straight to the super family and almost destroyed it. In the end, Martial Emperor De did not punish him. That super family's strength was even stronger than the Shangguan clan. The more he thought about it, the paler his face became. He could not help but break out in cold sweat. Lord Yan, what brings you here? Mu Tian flew up to the sky and cupped his fists. Mu Tian's seniority was higher than Yan Kuangtu's. When Yan Kuangtu was in the Tianxian region, he was already the palace master of the Tianxian palace. However, things were different now. Yan Kuangtu's status in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was much higher than his. When he saw Yan Kuangtu, he had to call him Lord. Lord Yan, you haven't returned to the Tianxian region for decades, right? Just in time, I'll ask someone to prepare a banquet to welcome you. Shengtsong flew up to the sky and said with a smile. Hee hee. Yan Kuangtu drank 2 more mouthfuls of wine and said, Shengtsong, don't try to get close to me. Are we close? Shengtsong's face stiffened and he stood there awkwardly. When Yan Kuangtu was in the Tianxian region, he and the Xing family could be said to be mortal enemies. They were even fiercer than Lu Ming was now. Many people of the same generation as Yan Kuangtu in the Xing family had been beaten up by him and many of them had died in his hands. Back then, the Xing family had regarded Yan Kuangtu as a must-kill target. They had even forced Yan Kuangtu to leave the Tianxian region and go to other regions to gain experience. Later on, he had risen rapidly. Only then did the Xing family give up on him. Now, Yan Kuangtu was lucky that he did not kill them. Why would he care about them? Lord Yan, I didn't know it was you just now. Please forgive me. Shangguan Wuchen also flew up to the sky and said with fear and trepidation. You didn't know it was me, oh. Hee hee, your Shangguan clan is truly arrogant. You want to bully the weak? Are you bullying my little brother Lu Ming because he has no background and no backing? If I wasn't prepared, he would have been killed by you. Yan Kuangtu sneered. No, I was just testing little brother Lu's strength. Shangguan Wuchen broke out in cold sweat. Second brother, what are you doing? We are the disciples of the Shangguan clan. Why should we be afraid of him? We must kill that little bastard today. Let's see what he dares to do to us. Shangguan Wuling screamed again. Little sister, shut up. Shangguan Wuchen was shocked and scolded. Shangguan Wuling had married into the Tianxian region and stayed there all year round. Although she had heard of Yan Kuangtu's reputation, she did not know how terrifying Yan Kuangtu was. She had never heard of Yan Kuangtu's battle achievements. Shangguan Wuchen was really afraid that Shangguan Wuling would anger Yan Kuangtu. Second brother, why are you so timid? Our Shangguan clan is not afraid of anyone. That little bastard. I must skin him alive and make him regret hurting Xingqian. Shangguan Wuling looked like a crazy hag because she was so protective of her son. What a vicious woman. Chapter 6:11. Slap. A crisp sound was heard. Shangguan Wuling screamed as her body flew far away. One side of her face was swollen. Arg! How dare you hit me? Bastard! Trash! I'm going to tell my father that I'm going to kill you and your whole family. Shangguan Wuling screamed hysterically. Her hair was disheveled and she looked like a ghost. Whoosh! Yan Kuangtu's figure suddenly appeared in front of Shangguan Wuling. His eyes were cold and a terrifying murderous aura burst out. The murderous aura was unbelievably terrifying. As soon as the murderous aura was released, everyone felt like they were in Azura hell. There were mountains of corpses and seas of blood everywhere. It was cold. It was so cold that it penetrated into their bones and souls. Everyone's face turned pale. Shangguan Wuling, who was in the middle of the murderous aura, was stunned. Then, her face was filled with fear and her body trembled violently. You're just a bitch. Killing you will only dirty my hands. Yan Kuangtu said indifferently. Then, he looked at the sky and said, I won't interfere in the battle between the young ones. However, if you seniors want to bully the weak, then I don't mind bullying the weak. Bullying the weak. Overbearing and arrogant. If someone else said that, they would definitely be despised. However, it was reasonable for Yan Kuangtu to say that. This was strength. Yan Kuangtu had such strength. Today's battle is fair and Lu Ming is the winner. Therefore, the Xing family can get lost. The last word, get lost, was like a thunderclap. The sky rumbled and everyone's eardrums hurt. Although Xing Tsang, Shangguan Wuchen and the others were unwilling, they did not dare to say anything. They hurriedly brought the dazed Shangguan Wuling and the severely injured Xing Xingqian and the others away in a sorry state. In an instant, the people of the Xing family had all left. Senior Yan, thank you for saving me. Lu Ming stepped forward and cupped his fists to express his gratitude. You don't have to be so polite with me. Also, don't call me senior. I'm only 100 years old. I'm not that old. Call me Big Brother. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Big Brother Yan. Lu Ming said. In fact, he and Yan Kuangtu were indeed of the same generation. Yan Kuangtu waved his hand and the blurry figure above Lu Ming disappeared. He looked at Lu Ming and then at Mulins. Good boy. I was wondering why you were in such a hurry. It turns out that you're here to snatch a beauty. Good, a real man should do this. Yan Kuangtu patted Lu Ming on the shoulder. Mulins. Greet Senior Yan. Mulins walked towards Yan Kuangtu. Yan. Let's do it today. Let's do it. Your two and I. Let's. Of the day, the good. That's right. Today was supposed to be Lan and Xing's wedding, but you snatched it from us halfway. I'll leave Lan to you then. Mu Tian also walked over. Father, Senior Yan. Mulins shouted. A blush flashed across her beautiful face. Her beauty was unparalleled. Marry Senior Sister Mulins. Lu Ming was stunned. The reason why he challenged Xing Xingqian was that Mulins said that she didn't want to marry Xing Xingqian. He just wanted to help Mulins. He never wanted to marry Mulins. Indeed, although Mulins was beautiful, he never wanted to marry her. What? Lu Ming, you don't want to marry her? Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Mu Tian's face darkened. Lu Ming was tongue-tied. At this moment, two figures involuntarily appeared in his mind. Xian Yanqing and Autumn Moon. He knew very well that Autumn Moon was interested in him. And Xian Yanqing. How was she now? She disappeared for so long. At this moment, for some reason, Xian Yanqing's figure became exceptionally clear in his mind. Lu Ming, what is the meaning of this? Mu Tian shouted coldly. His face was extremely gloomy. Today, Lu Ming snatched the bride and challenged Xing Xinchen. This matter would soon spread throughout the Tianxian domain. In the end, Lu Ming refused to marry Mulan's. At that time, how would others look at Mulan's? How would they look at him? Mulan's eyes flashed. She seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes dimmed and she said softly, "Father, don't misunderstand. I don't want to marry Xing Xinchen. That's why I asked Lu Ming for help. There's no other meaning. Moreover, Lu Ming is still young. He should focus on martial arts." Mu Tian looked at Mulan's with a complicated expression. "Senior Sister Mulan's, I'm sorry." Lu Ming said apologetically. It wasn't that Mulan's wasn't beautiful enough. It wasn't that Mulan's wasn't good enough. To be honest, which man wouldn't be tempted by a woman like Mulan's? It would be a lie to say that Lu Ming wasn't tempted. However, he really didn't want to marry her. Moreover, there were two people in his heart. Why are you apologizing? I should thank you today. From now on, I'm free. Mulan smiled sweetly. Her smile was brilliant and charming like a blooming flower. Her beauty was unparalleled. Father, Senior Yen, I'm a little tired. I'll go back and rest first. After saying that, Mulan's turned and strode away. The moment she turned, Lu Ming saw the sadness in Mulan's eyes. Sigh. Lu Ming sighed. Yan Kuangtu rolled his eyes and thought, it seems that little brother Lu is also a romantic person. He has someone else in his heart. Thinking of this, Yan Kuangtu naturally didn't say a word. It was hard for outsiders to say anything about this kind of thing. Humph. Mu Tian looked coldly at Lu Ming and snorted. Then, he said to Yan Kuangtu, Lord Yan, it's been a long time since you returned to Tianxian domain. Why don't we go and have a drink? Well, it's time to have a good drink. Old man Mu, I remember that you have some good wine in your private collection. I've always wanted to drink it but couldn't. It's time to take it out. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Okay, this time, I'll definitely take it out. Mu Tian said. Brother Lu, do you want to have a drink together? This old man's private collection is really good. Yan Kuangtu looked at Lu Ming. I'd better not go. Lu Ming shook his head. For some reason, he felt a little guilty and didn't know how to face Mu Tian. Okay, then I'll leave first. As if seeing through Lu Ming's thoughts, Yan Kuangtu didn't say much and left with Mu Tian. At the scene, there was an uproar of excited discussion. What happened today was really full of twists and turns. It was beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Ming, who everyone thought was hiding and didn't dare to fight, appeared at the crucial moment. Moreover, he displayed terrifying strength and actually defeated the peerless genius Xing Xing. This was really terrifying. If Lu Ming broke through to the Peak King realm, how strong would his battle strength be? And just as Lu Ming won, Shangguan Wuchen made a move to kill Lu Ming. They never thought that the person standing behind Lu Ming was actually a legendary figure like Yan Kuangtu. In the end, the Sheng family was completely defeated and retreated in a sorry state. Today's matter would soon spread throughout Tianxian domain. Chapter 612. The crowd slowly dispersed. Lu Ming, looks like you've hurt someone's heart. Mu Xiuyuan walked over in his white robe. Brother Mu, don't make fun of me. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Lu Ming, you don't have to think too much. Just like what Mulan said, you're still young. You should focus on martial arts. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far you can go in the future. Mu Xiuyuan sighed. When he first met Lu Ming hadn't become a challenger yet. He was still so young and weak and needed his guidance. But now, Lu Ming had left him in the dust. How long had it been? It was too fast. Maybe he's another Yan Kuangtu. Mu Xiuyuan sighed. Brother Mu, I'm going back to treat my injuries. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. All right, you should go back now. Mu Xiuyuan said. Lu Ming nodded and turned to leave. Lu Ming, you're such a fool. How could you reject such a beautiful lady? What a waste. It's such a pity. Dandan shouted and sighed on the way back. Shut up, you perverted turtle. Lu Ming picked up Dandan and stuffed it into the Temple of Paragon. He didn't go to the 4th zone. Instead, he rented a house in the 1st zone. Sitting cross-legged in the room, Lu Ming took out a few healing pills and swallowed them. Then, he activated the True Dragon Battle Art to heal his injuries. He had taken Shengguan Wuchen's attack head-on and was severely injured. The bones in his arm were broken and his muscles were torn in many places. However, Lu Ming's body was extremely strong and his vitality was incomparably strong. His body had been healing automatically when he was talking. Now, with the help of the pills, he recovered even faster. In the 4th zone, Mulans and Mu Xiuyuan stood side by side in a pavilion and looked into the distance. Are you angry with him? Mu Xiuyuan asked. No. Mulan said calmly, feelings can't be forced. Lu Ming is indeed still young. He should prioritize martial arts. Actually, you should know that there is someone else in his heart. Mu Xiuyuan sighed. Mulan's eyes flashed, then she smiled sweetly and said, I know, of course I know. But do you think I will lose? I've decided. I'm going to fight for it. Compete? Mu Xiuyuan stared blankly for a moment, then smiled and said, now that's the Mulans I know. Speaking of which, Lu Ming is really outstanding. He can't be easily missed. If I were a woman, I would also fight for him. However, the gap between me and him is getting bigger and bigger. Therefore, I've decided to go to that place to cultivate. I can't be left behind by him too much. Mulans gazed into the distance. Have you finally decided to go there to cultivate? Mu Xiuyuan's eyes lit up. That's right. Father arranged for me to go, but I didn't want to listen to him, so I didn't go. Now, it's time to go. Mulan sighed. It's right for you to go there to cultivate. Otherwise, with your physique, it would be a waste. It's not too late to go now. Mu Xiuyuan said. Half a day later, Lu Ming's injuries had already healed. His 7th grade body displayed a super strong self-healing ability. The Sea of Soul Realm is indeed powerful. I wonder what level of Sea of Soul Realm Shengguan Wuchen is at, and how much power did he use? Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Lu Ming estimated that Shengguan Wuchen shouldn't be too high in the Sea of Soul Realm. Otherwise, even a casual palm was not something he could block. When I break through to the Peak King level, I wonder if I can fight with a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. However, what he needed to do now was to forge a spiritual spear. That high-grade 5th grade Wind Thunder spear had cracked after receiving a palm from Shengguan Wuchen during the battle with the Saint Star. With Lu Ming's current explosive power, a 5th grade spiritual weapon was not very useful. Immediately, Lu Ming got up and walked toward Old Huang's residence. Nestle, Lu Ming, you bastard, don't stuff me into that damn place. Dandan's voice suddenly sounded. It had appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder again, panting. Nestle! Lu Ming was shocked. This guy could actually run out of the Temple of Paragon by itself. Don't you know who I am? I'm the leader of the top 10 battle beasts. I've existed for countless years, and my inscription skills have already reached a level that can shock the heavens and make ghosts cry. How can a mere Temple of Paragon trap me? I'm so tired. Dandan boasted shamelessly while lying on Lu Ming's shoulder with its shell down and panting. Keep bragging. A person who often fails to carve an inscription, no, a tortoise. How can you say that your inscription skills can shock the heavens and make ghosts cry? Lu Ming said with disdain. Kid, what do you know? If I wasn't injured. A man and a tortoise bickered, and soon, they arrived at Old Huang's residence. Lu Ming walked in directly. Old Huang, Junior Lu Ming is here to visit. Lu Ming said loudly. Clang! Clang! In one of the rooms, there was a clattering sound. Then, an old man with messy hair rushed out of the room. Ah, Lu Ming, you're finally back. I thought you were dead. How was it? Did you bring back the 1,000 refined blood gold? Old Huang grinned and looked at Lu Ming. I brought it back. Lu Ming waved his hand and the 1,000 refined blood gold appeared in his hand. This is enough. Sigh, it's a pity for Xian Long. Old Huang sighed. It was obvious that Old Huang had received the news of the blacksmith sect's destruction. Lu Ming sighed inwardly, but he didn't say anything. Alright, there's no need to think too much about other things. During this time, I've been studying the inscriptions on the broken spear you gave me. I've learned a lot. I've already extracted the infinite black gold from the broken spear. I can start refining it now, but it will take 3 days. 3 days later, come and get it. Old Huang said. Alright, I'll have to trouble you then. Lu Ming handed the 1,000 refined blood gold to Old Huang. Alright, go ahead. Old Huang took the 1,000 refined blood gold and rushed into the room. Lu Ming smiled. This Old Huang was truly an eccentric. This old man is just an ordinary inscriber. He's not even a true inscriber, so he probably can't refine any good spiritual weapons. Dandan muttered. Lu Ming was speechless. This guy really knew how to brag. Elder Huang was the top inscription master in the Tianxian region. Moreover, how could it be so easy to find a true inscriber? It was too difficult to become a true inscriber, and the requirements were too high. Lu Ming strolled through the streets. Soon, he arrived at the courtyard that Mullins had given him half a year ago. Sitting cross-legged in the room, Lu Ming quietly comprehended the concept of lightning. As long as he broke through to the first level of perfection, he would be able to easily cultivate the other two concepts to the first level. With enough resources, Lu Ming would be able to break through to the peak stage king realm.